and welcome to the Women Arise podcast. I'm Neely Hicks and want to say happy Thanksgiving Day. With me are two dear friends and colleagues in the Triumph Over Trauma ministry. I'd like to introduce to you Carol Lakota Eastin and Michelle Oberwise Lacock. How are you doing today?
It's a good day, Neely. Thanks for having us on.
Good.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks.
Yes, and it's a good day and to be with family today, especially.
Yeah. Yes. So we met earlier this year through Bishop Peggy Johnson, and we had just started working with Triumph Over Trauma, trying to package a group of resources for faith communities to use in helping people understand the effects of trauma and cope with the effects of trauma. Thanksgiving Day is often fraught with anxiety and tension because we tend to go back to childhood memories and know that they're kind of held in our bodies. And when we walk into a particular setting or see people that we might have had hurtful experiences with, it can be trying, right? Yeah.
Definitely. It's a mixed day, isn't it? So there's things to celebrate, there's things that are good. And sometimes we really anticipate the day with hope and end up disappointed because sometimes we build up high expectations when the relationships haven't always been ideal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle, what are your thoughts around that?
Well, it's great to be with family, and family can be the cause of a lot of tension. Both current tensions and past. And it can also bring around a lot of grief because maybe a particular family member is no longer there at the table. And the grief and sadness can also bring up other complicated memories.
So tell us about the work that you are doing in Native American communities and a little bit about your own personal backgrounds.
So, Neely, you introduced me using my maiden name, which is Lakota, and that's always been the naming ceremony of my lifetime. Knowing that part of my heritage is Lakota, Lakota Nation. I am the daughter of two mixed blood urban Indians who brought to me both the Native American heritage and European heritage. And part of my spiritual journey and my professional journey has been to connect more deeply with Native people in ministry, in my counseling practice, and also in education. So those are things I do. One of the things along the way was being a powwow director. A lot of my family members are deeply involved in Native American powwows. We have singers, dancers, pipe carriers in my family. And so walking kind of a dual path between the Christian road and the Lakota spiritual Sweat Lodge Sundance community path has been a part of my journey.
Thank you. What about Michelle?
Part of my journey is so tied with Carol as we became friends, and that my family history is my great-grandfather was Lakota, and as I met Carol, then I was able to explore more deeply my Native roots and participated with her in the powwows and a lot of Native American activities. Both in Illinois and Wisconsin, and really have grown to learn and appreciate more about my own heritage along the way, which has been really important. As part of my work is working in the past in the hospital setting, where people come in, experience a lot of different traumas due to their health crisis or accidents, or sudden deaths with family members. And as a CPE educator, I have had a lot of Native American students who come into the program where they share their own personal trauma history. And how does that impact the people that they work with?
So you both wrote the Native American Context Supplement for Triumph Over Trauma, and you talk about the generational trauma that is present in Native American communities. Could you share more about that?
Go ahead, Carol.
Sure, sure. I think we both would be anxious to talk about it. It's an area of study and exploration right now, very deeply. We look at the first layer of trauma. So when working with our people, with our Native American people, we have a list of traumas that are occurring in their lives, as so many people have them. But there's another deeper layer, and it's what we call historic trauma. And it's at the DNA level. It's at the collective unconscious level. It's affects the whole community, the whole family, in that so much was lost. The grief is an inherited grief. And so using one of our phrases, the window of tolerance for everyday stresses is going to be narrower for Native American people. It's going to be harder to cope with stressors because there's already so much trauma in their background.
So what is a window of tolerance?
A window of tolerance, I think of it as is this for some people, it's a narrow field in which I can operate, in which I can move comfortably and function well. But it's how much I can tolerate as far as stress. But if stressors start to press in and things are happening outside of my limited range of tolerance or window of tolerance, then I start to react in negative ways. Either I get depressed and I hide in a cave, or I run and flee and try to get away from the situation. So it's kind of the window is the range of stress I can handle.
Could you share? Yeah, go ahead, Michelle.
Well, yeah, when we're in the window of tolerance and the stressors come, our window gets smaller and smaller. And then our lines go outside. So we go into the fight, flight, freeze, fawn mode of operating. And then it's hard to be present to ourselves and be present to others.
Yeah.
And it disconnects us with ourselves and with others. So part of it in the supplement, we do some exercises that can help us expand and open up the window of tolerance. So that, we're not in the reactive mode of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn.
So could you guide us through one of those exercises? I'm thinking about our listeners who might they might be in a position where they see their window of tolerance closing down and closing down and closing down. I mean, what can be done when you are able to recognize that this is happening to you?
It's one that's really fairly short and simple from the curriculum. And it's something you can do on the spot and probably almost anywhere that you are. So if things start feeling stressful today or during this holiday season and you feel that tension, it's something you can just pause and stop and do. If you think about it, a lot of how we're feeling in terms of stress and anxiety is related to how we're breathing. And we tend to start breathing shallowly. And that signals something to our brain that says flee or run, something's wrong. And you can take control of some of those feelings by simply changing the way you breathe. So let's just try it right now. And we'll look at our abdominal breathing. So hopefully you're sitting someplace comfortable right now. You can either open or close your eyes. And when you breathe in through your nose and count silently 1, 2, 3, 4 as you inhale. And then breathe out through your mouth. Now here's what we're going to do. We're going to do something we don't usually do. We're going to inhale in 4 counts, but to exhale, we're going to breathe all of the air out slower than we inhaled. We're going to take twice as long. We're going to take 8 counts to exhale. So let's try it together. So we breathe in through our nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And again, breathe in through your nose, counting silently to 4, and then out through your mouth, releasing the air slowly, and just emptying out your lungs. Feel the emptying and the letting go. And repeat that. Breathing in. And if you like, you can add an arm motion to it. As you're breathing in, you could pull your arms, your hands up to your chest, maybe placing your hands on your chest in like you're holding your heart. And then as you exhale, just extend your arms out, stretch them out, and even let the tension fall from your arms down through your fingertips to the Mother Earth, who will receive all of your stress. If you keep your breathing smooth and easy this way, and you repeat this a few times, you'll begin to feel the anxiety literally leaving your body. Neely, we were recently doing a workshop with Native American people who, as we talked about the content, were sometimes being triggered, and they had past memories coming up. This kind of a breathing exercise can really be helpful on the spot when people are starting to feel triggered or anxious.
So what could you say about triggers for listeners who might be kind of unfamiliar with that?
Michelle, what's a trigger?
Well, it's a past memory that comes rushing right at you.
Yeah.
And it can instantaneously raise the anxiety up. It can make our breathing go faster. It can make our minds not think very clearly. It can overwhelm us.
It's like pushing a button. You know, they'll say somebody pushes your buttons, it pulls my trigger, it pulls the trigger, and boom, I mean, it's changed the way I feel and often the way I act toward others. So what's happening, if you can recognize it's happening, that's huge. That's a great first step. Oh, I'm being triggered by this situation. I'm remembering something. That's a memory. I'm here. This is a safe place here and now. I can breathe in slowly and out and get a hold of my own feelings through that process.
Yes, it makes such a big difference when you can actually recognize this is what's happening.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We talk about there's an exercise in the curriculum called flipping your lid. And basically it is understanding that there's different parts of the brain that are activated, for lack of a better word, when something happens, and it's easy for people to go into emotional mind, where the limbic system is enacted and triggered, and then you kind of lose your rationalizing capacity. And so a lot of people then act out of just emotion mind, and they can either self-harm through addiction, or they can harm other people. And then when we recognize that wise mind is the coming together of reasoning mind, emotional mind, and the limbic system, that's wise mind. And being able to just tap into reasoning mind makes such a huge difference, because we can recognize when our emotions are out of sort. And when you recognize it, it's like kind of seeing, okay, here's a life jacket that's being thrown at me, and I can reach for that instead of going down into the deep waters.
Neely, it's so interesting that as you're talking about that, I realized how strongly connected that is to the Native American teaching about walking in balance. And one of the things we share in our supplement is the medicine wheel. which is a teaching model that can be used for understanding everything in our experience. But one use of the medicine wheel is to understand that the human being is made up of spirit, body, emotion, and intellect. It's kind of like, those things you were picking on there, mentioning there. We're all of those things. And health and good medicine is for those four things to be in balance. If they get out of balance and one is taking over, then we're not living in the most healthy way. So finding that centered, balanced walk, the good red road, they would say, is the medicine path to being the best human being we can be.
Michelle, do you want to add to that?
I was just agreeing with what Carol was saying. She said it so well. It was like, yes.
She did.
Yeah, yeah.
She did.
And in our supplement, we have things that you can do in the 4 directions. So to help find balance and restore one's center again. And being outdoors is really important. Being grounded in the earth. Mother Earth is very healing. And we encourage people to be outdoors.
Remembering who you are and where you are, and looking at nature and looking up at the sky, the night sky and the stars, kind of puts things into perspective. Knowing that you're a part of this amazing creation and that the one who created everything has made you unique, and you have gifts, and you're here for a reason at this time in human history. You're not an accident. You are beloved by the Creator who made you. And as you stand there in the perspective of all of that in nature, it just helps one to get things in order. So all of these are perspective. The things that are stressing us out, we can set them aside and say, I'm a part of this whole cosmos here. The Creator loves me ultimately and forever. Yeah.
Yeah, it puts things in a different perspective, doesn't it?
It does.
When you realize that you're really a part of something so much bigger than you, and that you have a role and a place, and you are loved, and there's nothing that anybody can say or do that will take that away from you. You are beloved.
Yeah.
It shifts our energy so that we can live better lives. And it really takes community to remind us of this, because this energy shift isn't something that just happens overnight.
I'm so glad you said that, because that's the exciting thing, or the hopeful thing about this curriculum, is that people can gather in communities, in their faith communities, in their community centers, and use this curriculum and not be alone as they're walking this journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's geared for 7 weeks. And in reality, it could go for 14 and split up, because there's enough activities in each session that they could be 2 sessions. And it's the whole curriculum itself is created so that people with no experience could be able to utilize it and facilitate the discussions, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard people say recently that they have downloaded it and are just working through it individually. And so I don't want any of our listeners to think that this is only for something for religious communities, or I've got to lead a group if I use this. No, we want people to use it in groups, because we see that there is kind of a loving accountability that can happen when people do this together. Then they can recognize the triggers in one another, recognize when people are flipping their lids, and maybe help one another instead of shame one another or judge one another. We could help one another. But it's also really helpful to go through this curriculum individually, because you'll learn a lot of practices that you can do on your own. And those daily practices can make a huge shift. If you are seeing a therapist, maybe you see them once a week. Well, what are you doing the other 6 days out of the week, the other hours out of the day? So these things are a companion to healing and wholeness.
That's good insight. When I think of the Native American community and how healing occurs, it usually does occur in community. It occurs in a group. And it's a big part of our identity that we're a part of a family, a clan, a tribe, a village. And more healing happens if we're doing it with others. And one of the things we emphasize is that the telling of your story is a very important part of healing. And you need someone to hear that story and the telling of it and having someone listen well. And then, as Michelle often says, then writing a new ending to that story, which can happen because you've been in this process of healing in a group.
Yeah. An example for me was my dad was a Korean War vet. And when he came back out of Korea, within 8 months, he started what we would now call PTSD. But in the 50s, they had no clue. And he was in and out of mental institutions. And so I grew up having a dad that had all these problems with what he was going through, and seeing invisible armies coming at him and taking guns and shooting at the army. We grew up on a farm, so there was lots of fields where he could shoot. But that's rather scary. And I, as a kid, I never talked about that. And it wasn't until later in community that I was able to talk about that and discover other people. They didn't have the same experience, but it was similar impact. And that's where some healing began.
Yeah, I think, Brene Brown talks about shame that thrives in secrecy, that's really, and that once you bring light into it, that's when its effects start to dissipate. And I think it's, sharing what has happened in our lives is something that we guard, because we want people who we trust to be the ones that we bear our pain and our sorrows to, because we don't know how people will react. And a lot of times people react in really unhelpful ways. So, but being able to share in a trusted community can make all the difference. And so that's one of the parts of this program, is that you set up group rules at the very beginning. And so confidentiality, not sharing one another's stories, maybe sharing what you've learned out of the group, but not sharing one another's stories. It's essential. And so what do you hope to do with this curriculum within Native American communities?
Well, one of the things that we've already done is that we have a Native American course of study for our licensed local pastors of the United Methodist Church, that folks that are Native American or serving Native American communities. We gave them all the curriculum. We photocopied it, passed it out, and then we'll have a time of talking with them about how to utilize the curriculum back in their locations. So that was exciting. Yeah.
That's very exciting. It makes me so happy to hear that, because I think what we're really doing is mainstreaming this psychoeducational program. And I think it's giving people new life skills. So that really makes me happy. And then you have something coming up, I think, next year, where you're hoping to gather people from the Native American International Caucus together. Do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, we have a national family camp. It's been a few years since we've been able to have that camp, partly because of COVID. The goal is in the July of 2023 to gather in New York State at a camp setting, Native American families, and to offer this curriculum and the training of this curriculum to Native American leaders who come from across the United States to take back to their communities. Yeah.
So we're spreading the word.
Absolutely.
Good. Well, these resources are free. You can go to info to download this bundle, and you'll receive the Native American supplement. The core TAMAR curriculum, TAMAR stands for Trauma, Addiction, Mental Health, and Recovery. The core content is not religious. So if you're listening to this podcast and you just want something just core to this work, you can download it and choose to use that only. There is a Native American supplement that I have been so personally enriched by, because it is yet a different expression of healing and practices for healing. There's a Christian, Jewish, Islamic supplement programs that you can download as well. And within the Native American supplement, we've been really encouraged by the community that has come alongside of us. We have 2 songs. We have an artist who provided a window of tolerance coloring sheet that is also part of the download. Is there any word that you want to say about your companions on this journey?
Well, it's been awesome to have people be willing to share their gifts with this supplement. Flute music and professional singing, and the artist, it's the creator blessed us richly. Yeah.
Their joy in doing it is the other thing. Their excitement in knowing that more and more people would be blessed by their artistic gifts, because they have this gift, and the idea that it's going into a curriculum that's going to reach thousands of people ultimately just blesses them so much. And they've been very, very generous about it. So thank you to Jocelyn and to Bill and to Jonathan for just offering their artistic gifts.
Yes, I'm so happy. And I want to do a podcast with the artist. I think that would be a great conversation to have, because it is, I mean, healing through the arts, that's something that humanity has done through the ages. Like it's cathartic, it's helpful, and people remember songs long after they have forgotten the words that somebody has spoken, and we sing them as part of our community, and it reinforces the messages that we are claiming for healing and hope. So anyway, we'll schedule that.
Do that. Yeah. That's gonna be great.
And that really fits, the Jonathan Markle's song that he shared with us, "We're Free." And the words to that: "Not strangers to ourselves or broken beyond repair, no longer self-destructive, restored with love and care, delivered from the lies holding captives hearts and lives, we're free." And I think that's what we're hoping, that people will find some freedom and release from the past traumas in their lives.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much for that, because I mean, that is such a perfect, hopeful way to conclude this interview. And again, for more information, you can go to triumphovertrauma.info. If you would like to receive a free daily message of hope, just text the word hope to 615-933-5387. So I'll say that again. Text the word hope to 615-933-5387. If you use the Telegram app, you can also text the word hope to HarperHill_bot, and you can start receiving the same messages on Telegram rather than text. Thank you both so much. It's such a blessing to work with you, and to be on this journey with you is a joy for my heart. So thank you.
Thank you, Neely.
Thank you.